Hello, hello. This is so exciting. I'm really excited. I got 6 awesome people to read for. So thank you for joining me. This was just a thing I wanted to do today, is offer a couple of little mini readings for folks and talk about my unique, everybody's is unique, methodology of reading tarot. And, rising above the wound, no, I'm not talking about Pluto right now. Tarot School for Liberation was something that really came through for me in May of, my phone's slow. I gotta not be super chatty. And it really has blossomed into something that's bigger than me, which like all of our creations do. And it's only open for 2 more months. And I am working on a new iteration, a different type of space for doing radical, queer-friendly, abolitionist, trauma-informed tarot study. But this course is only open until November 13th. And what I believe in, I am not offering more readings. This is it today. So nobody else Venmo me. I'm done. This is it. I might do this again, though. If people are into it, I might do this again in the next couple months. So Tarot School for Liberation is open through November 13th. And one thing that I want to say, because a lot of times when I do readings for people, people will say, wow, how did you get to that? That makes so much sense. Like, tell me how you were able to come to that conclusion. And the thing is, like, when you work on your intuition, when you are able to really tap into your inner knowing and your connection to your ancestors, like the messages come through on their own. So that's really what I encourage my students to do, is not to create like a formula. Like, books are great, classes are great, workshops are great, but really like the most important thing is knowing your own truth. Because you are the giving the reader, and you need to share your unique gift. You're not sharing how much knowledge you learned from me or Lindsay Mack or Rachel Pollack, or maybe I shouldn't put my name in there with those people. But, whoever you learn tarot from, like, you learn tarot, you have your mentors, you have your teachers, but really you are the one that's doing the reading from your own intuition. So what I'm going to do is I have 6 people that I'm going to read for today, and I'm going to begin. So I just made this essence on the Uranus-Mars, North Node conjunction in Taurus of the oldest plant in the world, King Clone Creosote. It's 30 minutes from me in the Mojave Desert, just like in this really barren area. It's the oldest plant. It's 11,700 years old. And I'm working on a blog about it because I had some of my patrons work with it for a couple weeks, and the results were amazing. So I always begin my practice with a little ritual with a candle. I have some rosemary that I'll be burning, and then an essence. And this is the one that I've been working with. I also often work with Queens Don't Burn Out, which I made for my advanced tarot students a couple of years ago. So I'm going to take some of this rosemary, and I'm going to start with Brianna. Brianna asked, how can I feel supported on my journey even if I am alone? And some of y'all shared a little bit more, but I just wrote down the gist of your question. So again, I'm using Christy Rhodes' Next World Tarot, which is amazing. And Brianna asks, how can I feel supported on my journey even if I am alone? How can I feel supported on my journey, even if I am alone? Brianna. Okay, I'm going to do another one because this is a lot. Okay. So this is hard for you, Brianna, because there's a lot of pain coming up. Like the first card that came out, we've got the 3 of Swords, and then we have Judgment, right? So it's like that card combination right there is tough, because it's like, not only are you suffering and are you kind of stuck in this thought loop of negative spiraling, but you also are beating yourself up for being there. So it's not like you just are in a place where you're being negative towards yourself and self-deprecating. You also feel that you deserve that. So first of all, the thing is, you're not alone. You know, like the Page of Pentacles was the third card that I pulled. You're not alone in this, okay? That's the first problem. And I don't want to, like, you know, invalidate you. If you're saying that you're alone, you know, I'm sure like there is some degree of independence that you're holding, but that's the issue here, is it's a belief system. It's the belief system about not being supported. So like, where do you find support? Can you find support with your ancestors, with your practices, with the earth, you know? Because it is hard sometimes, like if we don't feel supported by the people in our life. But this is a hard couple of cards to get for this question. And that, you know, I didn't even think that when I wrote that question down. I was like, oh, okay, like how do you feel supported in your journey, even if you're alone? Valid question. As soon as I saw these two cards, I was like, this is a perception. This isn't a reality. This is a perception. You perceive that you're alone. You perceive that you're unsupported. And the issue with that is that it's not true. You know, it's not, maybe the people in your life don't know how to like uniquely show up for you in your time of need. But the thing is, you know, Page of Pentacles is a new chapter. And when we look at Page of Pentacles in its more evolved way, what we see is someone who like wants to make the best choices for their life moving forward. So the question might actually be, who are these people that make you feel alone? And again, I want to put the responsibility back on yourself, because nobody can make anybody feel any type of way, right? So I think of it more as, what is it about your interactions with others? Like, what is it about what's going on in your life, in your community, where you feel isolated and alone? Because you're not. And you need to be kind to yourself. You can't, you know, maybe you've made mistakes. Maybe other people have made mistakes with you. You don't have to forgive anyone. Like, that's not something you have to do, you know, but it is important for you to forgive yourself, you know, and maybe there is an apology you need to make. You know, sometimes when judgment comes up, it is the second to the last card in the major arcana. So we think about it as doing that kind of like housekeeping in our mental and emotional lives, because judgment is Pluto. So funny that I was like, this isn't going to be about Pluto. Yes, it is, y'all. Everything is always about Pluto. So Brianna, I'm sending you lots of love. I don't want to invalidate you by telling you to change your framework, because your reality is your reality, and I don't know what that is. Only you do. But I don't think that you're alone. I think that you're really bogging yourself down with worries right now. And yet the opportunity is there. So sending you lots of love, Brianna. And I'm going to read now for Sam. And Sam asks, where can I provide the most support to my community? Love this question. I'm going to take, you know, this one because it fell out. Whoops. Sorry, y'all. I'm so unprofessional. So this one's coming out because it fell out. And those never, you know, oftentimes they don't fall out on accident. So, Sam, where can I provide the most support to my community? Great question. Love this question. Okay, wow. So we've got some repeating themes, because the two cards that I just pulled, Page of Pentacles, Three of Swords. And I'll say, like, this happens a lot, and it's usually because there's something coming through from, like, the collective consciousness about that. But the first card that came out that flew out of the deck is the Ten of Pentacles. So the way that I see this working is, you know, there's more of a movement forward with your Three of Swords. Three of Swords is not an inherently bad card. In fact, it can show us a lot about what we're afraid of. So a lot of times when you pull the Three of Swords, what it tells us is the ways that we kind of have like a self-fulfilling prophecy over the bad things that come in our lives. But threes are also opportunities to grow. And I did a whole podcast episode, it's called Feelings Are Not Facts, about the Three of Swords. So I think there is sort of like a opportunity to grow, but what happens in the Suit of Swords is that we grow towards a lot of disappointment and grief and ego. You know, a lot of ego happens in the swords. And I always tell my students, you know, people are afraid of the swords but they're afraid of it because of this idea, this like image of a threat of violence. And that's not really what's coming through with the Three of Swords. It's not necessarily a threat of violence. It's a threat of ego. And, you know, of course, we all need some ego. We need a sense of self. But when the ego becomes something that needs to be fed over like the authentic sense of self or the inner child, that's when it becomes problematic. And we live in a society and a culture that really encourages us to step on other people and manipulate people to get ahead. So of course, like a lot of us are going to have those ego struggles. But what I see with this, so like this is an example of something being interpreted in a very different way. Three of Swords coming up specifically with the Page of Pentacles as different from the last interview or the last reading is that I think like the Three of Swords is looking at ways to escape this thought loop. And the Page of Pentacles wants to escape the thought loop because it wants to actually bring things into the body. Like the Page of Pentacles oftentimes is represented by the body. So when we have a Page of Pentacles come up, it's like, well, how are you feeling? So I actually love this combination in this reading. In the other one, it was like Judgment was kind of throwing a loop through it because like with the Three of Swords and the Page of Pentacles, it's like, okay, you're in pain, you're suffering, you're struggling, you don't, and in regards to your question, where can I provide the most support to my community? Well, you know, you don't feel like you are maybe you feel like you have not been as helpful. And there is, you know, I think in a lot of us, this wound of like being bothersome, being unhelpful. So I think like with Three of Swords, like you're bringing that pain and you want to do something rational with it. I hope I'm making sense. You want to actually ground it into reality. So yeah, maybe you see people in your community suffering. You see people in your community that are losing their rights. They're losing their homes, their income. And what do you want to do instead of suffer with them in like sympathy and empathy? You actually want to ground into some type of action, which is Page of Pentacles, and you want to remove any feelings of shame or powerlessness from your body. The fact that Ten of Pentacles came up at the beginning of the reading, this fell out of the deck. What this to me is about is like how many resources you have, not necessarily financially, because like people tend to think, you know, in a really cookie cutter way that Ten of Pentacles is like material wealth. It is not really about material wealth. It is about access to resources in an ancestral way. So like, what is it that happened in your, you know, what have other people in your family line done? Like, what are you good at? If you have like a grandmother or a relative that was someone that was really positive to you, that was a good influence, if there's something that you know about your own ancestral practices, what are those things that you can do to support others? The other thing that comes up when you get the Ten of Pentacles with these other cards and you're applying it to this question about how you can provide the most support for your community, what I think about that is that you're a good networker. You know, you're good at bringing people together. Like, you know, a Ten of Pentacles, a lot of times to me, 9 and 10, I see a feast that's intergenerational, that's throughout a whole neighborhood. It's like an old fashioned kind of like before social media and like before television, when people from their town center, even like still in small towns and in places that are not the so-called United States, people coming together on certain days and sharing meals. So, you know, I also think there's something here, like not only with ancestral skills of giving back, but with sharing food, with creating gathering spaces, with being able to create community with those around you and network and put people in touch with one another. So I hope that helps, Sam. Thank you so much for allowing me to do this reading for you. I'm going to take like a little drink of coffee, and I'm also using Aruka Toro's Rose Light, which tastes like rose perfume in the best way possible. So I'm going to use this to clear my energy because I have to do that when I do these readings back to back. Thank you, Aruka. Okay, so Stephanie asks, is it time to leave my job and explore other opportunities? Great question. This is a couple other people asked this question too. Yes, it is an interesting time to think about this. So we are asking Spirit for Stephanie, is it time for them to leave their job and move on to something new? Sometimes it's just like, okay. Oops, 4. Well, we're going to go with this. We're going to go with the 4. So, Stephanie, I've got 4 cards for you. The first 2 cards, we have King of Pentacles, 2 of Cups. Hi. And then we have the 8 of Swords and the Queen of Pentacles. Okay, so there's some good indications here. You know, even though we get the 8 of Swords, which people get really freaked out about, and they're like, no, we got this big King and Queen energy in Pentacles. So I think what this indicates, are you in a leadership position? I'll just ask you because you're right there. Are you in a leadership position at your job? Because if you are, just in case you don't see it, if you are, then, yeah, I think it's a great time for you to move on. If you've reached the glass ceiling, if you've gotten so far that you can't really go any further, yes, move on to something else. If you have not, and you feel like you would like to, or you would benefit from moving up to a higher position, okay, you're not. So if you feel like you want to ask for a higher position, this is a great time to do it. I'm going to switch the order. So we got King and Queen of Pentacles at the top. Down here, we've got, no, so you cannot go up anymore, you're saying, because you're already at the top. In that case, I would say yes. You want more responsibility. Honestly, like that's what's coming through for me. I mean, when you get a King and a Queen of Pentacles together in a reading. However, look at this guy. We got an 8 of Swords, the one that everyone's afraid of. And then we got 2 of Cups. So with the 8 of Swords here, there's some imposter syndrome for you. You definitely need to be somewhere, I think, where you can like fully utilize your skills, your talents, your craft, where you can be of service in the best way possible. Like, but you're afraid, you know, so you might kind of undercut yourself. You sort of might like ask for less. You know, you might be the kind of person that in your head, you're like, no, I can't work an extra day. I can't. And then your boss is like, Stephanie, can you work an extra day? And you're like, yes, even though inside you're like, no. Like that might be a pattern for you. You're not honoring your own boundaries. You're not really honoring your own needs. And the thing is, you have more to offer. You have more skills. You have more things that you can do. I love 2 of Cups for this as well, like with the 8 of Swords, because it reminds you, you know, like if you have a partner or a really good friend or even like a really good coworker, someone that you can relate to, with this is something that you don't want to go through alone. You know, like 2 of Cups often means that we need to share our story and we need to check in with someone else and kind of get their feedback about what our next steps are. So I would say consult a loved one, you know, and not necessarily like the person closest to you, like not necessarily your partner, although you can, but maybe like a mentor, maybe a coworker, like someone that knows this dynamic with you. But I would say this is really a journey of self-esteem for you. This is really a journey of you finding a way to be comfortable in your power and to claim more power and ask for more, because, you know, undercutting yourself doesn't do anything for anyone else, and it definitely doesn't do anything for you. So sending you lots of love, Stephanie. Thank you for trusting me to read for you today. Leanne is next. Hi, Leanne. Glad you liked it. So Leanne is a nurse, and they are feeling pretty restless in their career and don't know if they should like take on something more creative or if they should move on to something different. So let's check in about that. Should Leanne stay in their career as a nurse, or should they move into something different? Whew, speaking, coming through. Okay, so the card that fell out that was like, I need to be picked, was Temperance. Hi, Leanne. Thanks for being here. So it's Temperance. So that's the first one. So here's the thing. With Temperance, like what we see with this card is an opportunity to sort of like weigh your options and check in with what's going on underneath. So you're feeling restless in your career. I get it. Like, I've never been a nurse, but I have been a social worker, healthcare practitioner. It's a lot in these times. Like, I know that burnout is real. Temperance asks you to, before you make any changes about what you want to do with your career, you need to like work on healing yourself from burnout. You need to work on healing yourself from mental exhaustion. You know, like, Temperance is a spark. Temperance is a fire card. You don't usually think that when you see it. You know, this interpretation I love, this angel who's like dumping out wine on the ground. But when we look at the traditional image, we see someone who's like standing in water, pouring kind of two cups into one another. And what I think of with that is that you need to meet yourself where you're at right now. And the thing is, like, if you're feeling sick and burnt out and exhausted, it's likely that there's something underneath that you need to deal with, that like changing jobs won't necessarily heal. Although capitalism, you know, like, I know working is hard. So I think that there's something else to this question. You're feeling restless, but is the restlessness to do with your career, or is it something else you haven't addressed? The other two cards, we got Four of Pentacles and Three of Cups. So there's definitely, so like, finances are a concern here. You know, I don't know what kind of, you know, financial situation you're in with your career as a nurse, but the message that's coming through is that you aren't really in a situation in which like changing jobs, like, you're not necessarily in a situation where like changing jobs in the immediate future is going to benefit you. This is, again, and I think this comes through with Temperance and with Four of Pentacles together. Like, this is a decision that takes a lot of consideration and planning. So I think, you know, I didn't write down your whole question, but I think you said something about like your creative practice. Like, you know, with the Three of Cups, what we see is your community. Do you have some people in your community, friends, loved ones, that you can like start, like, this sounds cheesy, but like start a club with, you know, be like, let's get together once every 2 weeks and like collage or something. Like, that's just an example. But the feeling that comes through is like, you quitting your job is not going to alleviate the burnout that you're going through. You changing jobs, like, there's a fundamental inner kind of like wound down here that you're carrying that is going to make you burned out no matter what you do until you deal with it. So I think, like, right now, be creative. Absolutely be creative. Like, Cups is about creativity, and so is Temperance to a degree. But like, you don't need to make your creativity about your job change, if that makes sense. I hope that helps. Thank you so much for trusting me to deliver this message, and sending you lots of love, Leanne. Next I have, there's just two more people left. Helio. Hi, Helio. Thank you for trusting me to deliver this message. What will be required of me from Spirit to be able to make this move happen? Okay, how to make the move happen. Interesting. Don't really know what type of move that is, but that's okay. We're going to work with this. You know, Spirit always shares whatever the hell it wants, regardless of your question anyway. So what is required from Spirit to be able to make this move happen for Helio? And I don't know if I'm saying your name wrong. I apologize if I am. Okay, it's the cards have spoken. Okay, so I'm going to start with this. Three of Wands. We've got Three of Wands. Awesome, Leanne. Thank you. Six of Wands. Queen of Wands. So look at all that fire. So what's required of you? Belief. What's required of you? You believing that you can do it. You doing it. You know, you doing the thing. And I'm sorry I said 6. I meant 9. This says 9 of Wands. So this is a little bit stressful. And the thing is, when you get this much fire, there is a chance that you'll kind of collapse into yourself when this process is over. There is a chance that changing homes. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be, you know, we know that. And I, like, even when I was writing your question down, I was like, we're going to get a 10 of Wands up in here. And we didn't. We got a 9 though. So do you know, some questions, I'm just going to ask them like rhetorically, if you have people helping you. Because I would say, you know, That's a thing. Like Three of Wands I love because we're talking about planning. So there's all fire here, but what we're doing here is we're being smart about it. We're not in a 10, we're not in a 6. I thought this was a 6. We're not in a 6, we're in a 9. So the thing with that is that you're being more realistic. Like you need to, make sure that you aren't getting burnt out, but like don't worry too much about getting burnt out because it's a move. You'll have time after to feel comfortable. I think one thing with the Queen of Wands coming up is that there's a real need that like if you are leaving an unsafe or uncomfortable or just like not ideal living situation and moving into something that feels better for you, yeah, a lot of fire for you with that. So if you are, setting this space up for ritual. So I would say like, if you can go into the new space, do like a little ritual there before moving. If you have that opportunity, a lot of times people don't, but if like the night before you move, you can go in there, you can like burn whatever plant your ancestors used with a candle, and you can set your intentions there. What you're doing is you're laying the groundwork for this to be a really healthy and healing place for you. 9 of Wands is veering on 10 of Wands, but the thing about the 9 of Wands is a lot of times it's someone who has a lot of capacity, but the Wands tend to want to do things on their own. I talk about in Tarot School for Liberation, Wands and Swords are a lot about ego, and there's not a lot of vulnerability there. Which is fine. You don't need to be a vulnerable mover, so like that's fine. But I think like 3 of Wands says make reasonable decisions for yourself, like definitely like consider the outcome that you would like. And then 9 of Wands says like you can do this. Like there's absolute confidence from spirit that like this move is going to happen, but they want you to do it with a lot of intention. They also want you to do it with kind of like, pump up your own confidence. So like, be like, yeah, I can move this piano or whatever it is. Just, allow yourself to get a little egoic and just be like, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to push myself and it's going to happen. But do it with a lot of ritual, do it with a lot of intention, because the overarching message is that you're moving somewhere where you can be more creative. You're moving somewhere where you can be more yourself. So create a process that helps with that. I'm trying to remember that I'm trying to move with my partner, so perhaps it's remembering that it's not just me who wants this to happen. Yeah, I mean, I think like it's just very action based. Like this is just a very action based reading because it's all fire. So it's it is, if you're worried about the long-term consequences of moving, we're living in risky times. I have said this to people this week in my own life about my own decisions. There are no low risk options for a lot of us right now in the times that we're living in. There's only high risk options, So maybe this is a high risk move for you. Do it with a lot of like egoic confidence. Like be a little bit of a dick about it, be like, yeah, I'm moving and it's going to be great, because it probably will be. And there's like a lot of, I have very mixed feelings about the concept of manifestation. But I think in this case, like Wands do have a high component of manifestation, and you kind of have to believe that you're doing this for your highest good, and again, Queen of Wands has your back on this. So I think you're going to do great. Thank you so much, Helio, for allowing me to read for you. And the last person I'm reading for today is the amazing HA, my dear friend. So HA, thank you so much for letting me read for you. I'm going to burn a little bit more rosemary, and this has been so fun. Tell me if y'all want me to do this again, and maybe I'll do I didn't want to do it too far in advance because I thought the 8 spots would go super quickly, but yeah, let me know if you want me to do this again. And join Tarot School for Liberation. Come to my class. You can also book a reading. I have 1 spot open next week. Okay, HA, so your question is, what's the path I need to be on with my business? And are the moves that I'm currently making aligned with that? So sending you love, HA. What moves are you making with your business? Are they good? Are they for your highest good? What should you be doing? Well. This is amazing. This is a really good reading. So here's what I got. This is beautiful. 10 of Cups, 10 of Pentacles, Ace of Swords. Okay, so this is, like I said, so in my class, which I hope to see y'all in my class, Tarot School for Liberation, the 10s have like a mixed meaning because, hey, you're here. Because, you know, when you get to a 10 of Swords, people freak out. And when you get to a 10 of Wands, like we were discussing in the last reading, it's very burdensome. But then when you get to the 10 of Cups and the 10 of Pentacles, what you have is a lot of abundance and a very welcome beginning to a new chapter. And why is that? Take my class and like learn more about that. I'll talk about it for hours with y'all. You having both 10 of Cups and 10 of Pentacles, and then on top of that, an Ace of Swords, we've got a perfect segue into a new chapter for you, my friend. We've got a perfect segue for you doing something differently. So not only do you have community support, people recognize the work you do, even if it doesn't feel like it. Other people recognize how hard you work and how much you've done for your community. Other people also recognize how hard you've worked and how much you've done for yourself. Like, there's a lot to be proud of. This is a celebration for you. And because of all of this, this is the perfect place for you to be. Because it's time for you to turn over a new chapter. And you know, one thing that I love about the Ace of Swords, because again, like the Suit of Swords, I love the Suit of Swords, but the Suit of Swords gets a really bad rap. And it makes sense. If you look at the cards, they look like suffering. You know, they look like an image of suffering. But the thing about the Ace of Swords is it reminds us that, like, we can go back to when we got that power and do right by it this time. You know, one of the things living in the systems that we live in with power is that power corrupts, that power becomes addictive, that people become manipulative with their power. This is a thing that we see. This is why our world is ending up like this, you know? And yet when we go back to the Ace of Swords, we're like, well, what can I do with my knowledge? What can I do with my power? So for you, HA, like you taking classes, you learning new things is perfect. Like you are ready. You know a lot. You've mastered what you're doing. You are at a state of mastery and expertise. Everyone knows it. You know, like you are there. You need to, so like what's the path you need to be on with your business? Exactly where you're at. Like you do not want to stay stagnant right now. You want to be making moves. You want to be learning new things that you can implement. Because if you stay where you are right now, and I know maybe last year you were in a 10-year with your business, I don't remember, but like, if you were to keep doing exactly what you're doing, that you would be so bored. And like being able to step into an Ace of Swords and be like, so I know what I know. I'm great at what I know. I could do it asleep. Like this is, you know, you're bored. So branch out, learn something new. So I think like, yes, take any opportunity to do things differently now. Take any opportunity to expand your knowledge and to learn more. Thank you so much, HA, for letting me read for you. Thank you, Spirit, for sharing these messages with these 6 amazing people. Thank you all for watching. Do you want me to do this again? Should I do these live readings again? Leave a comment on the video and tell me. And I think next time I'll do a, day in advance. But I don't know, like 6 maybe is tops. I don't even know if I should do 8. But yeah, limited spots. My schedule is open if you want to book a reading. My schedule is open for next month. I only have 1 slot next week. But Tarot School for Liberation, open till November 13th. Hope to see you there. Love y'all. Bye.